We'd like to introduce ourselves, and we'll have you introduce yourselves. My name is Steve Franzik. I teach political science at the U.S. Naval Academy.
And I'm Margaret Branson, Associate Director for the Center for Civic Education.
And good morning, I'm Scott Kawasaki. I work at a hospital in Fairbanks, Alaska, and I currently am the youngest member of the Alaska State Legislature.
And will you introduce yourselves?
I'm Darian Jefferson, and we're all juniors at Wauwatosa West.
I'm Colin Detlaw.
I'm Callie Miller.
My name's Adam Mraz.
I'm Nicholas Abel, and this is our teacher, Mr. Chad Metesky.
Morning. Great. Well, as you've probably figured out, we're going to be doing question 3 this morning. Let me read that for everybody. In comparison to other democracies, the American political culture still contains many of the values that make for a vibrant democracy, and these may have increased over time, the past several decades. Tocqueville would not recognize contemporary America, but he still might conclude that his observations about democracy in America generally hold true today. Do you agree or disagree? Tocqueville said there was a greater opportunity of equality of condition among people in America than anywhere else. Is this still true? What evidence can you offer to support your position? Tocqueville said, Americans sought to rely on their own efforts to solve problems and resist the evils and difficulties of life. Is this still true today? And what evidence can you offer?
We believe that the 3 most prominent values of a vibrant democracy are liberty, equality, and representative government. These values have existed since America's inception and have been extended since Alexis de Tocqueville visited America in the 1830s. We agree that even today, America gives an incredible amount of opportunity to its citizens. However, we disagree that Tocqueville would recognize the same amount of self-reliance in Americans today as he observed almost 200 years ago.
The values of a vibrant democracy allow for the many opportunities we have in America today. Among these opportunities are the right to an education, women's rights, procedural due process rights, civil liberties, and the opportunity to participate in government. These opportunities have been extended to many groups throughout America's history. Amendments to our Constitution have allowed for women, African Americans, and other minorities to gain their civil and political rights, including the 14th, 15th, 19th, and 26th Amendments.
Key legislation has also extended rights to marginalized groups. For example, the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, the Equal Pay Act of 1963, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990.
Court cases are another track that has allowed rights to be extended. In the case Barron v. Baltimore, the Bill of Rights was ruled to only limit the federal government. However, the case Gitlow v. New York began the process of selective incorporation under the 14th Amendment, protecting many of these rights from state infringement.
Although our extension to so many groups is notable, America has not always been at the forefront of equality. It took us until 1920 to give women the right to vote in America. New Zealand granted equal voting rights to women in 1893. Slavery was not fully abolished in America until 1865 with the ratification of the 13th Amendment. Russia banned it in 1723. Nations as varied as Argentina, the Netherlands, and Haiti all had abolished slavery before 1815. Although controversial, the fight for gay rights is an ongoing struggle in America. Nations such as Norway, Sweden, Spain, and South Africa have already legalized same-sex marriage.
Though we are given almost limitless opportunities to participate in our local, state, and national governments, we believe Americans do not utilize said opportunities as much as we used to. When Tocqueville traveled to America, he observed that to take a hand in the regulation of society and to discuss it is the biggest concern and the only pleasure an American knows. Even back in the early 1800s, citizens would meet in town halls, churches, and schools to discuss how to address local needs.
The progressive era is especially notable for what can occur when citizens get together to change society. Organizations such as the NAACP, the Women's Christian Temperance Union, and workers' unions ultimately led to some of the fundamental values and protections in our society today. Among them, civil rights, child labor laws, and the 8-hour workday.
However, since the progressive era, this incredible engagement has generally declined. Over time, the federal government has become increasingly involved in issues originally left to state governments and local associations, such as civil rights, education, and healthcare, collectively called police powers.
During the Great Depression, many of the soup kitchens were privately run with no government involvement. Today, in contrast, food stamps for the government aid in helping the hungry. FDR's New Deal programs took power from the states in regulating and stimulating the economy, creating what some call a welfare state.
Welfare in itself used to be done by church and community programs. Today, welfare is mostly the realm of the government. President Obama's health care bill was recently passed in Congress, creating coverage for the 32 million Americans without health care. These controversial and increased federal powers reflect a people who no longer rely on their own efforts to solve problems.
Though Tocqueville would recognize America's huge number of opportunities, he would not recognize the apparent apathy of the American people towards the civic and political aspects of society. We believe America should go back to John F. Kennedy's underlying principle of asking not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. This concludes your statement. We are ready for your question.
Thank you very much.
You've spoken a good bit about your concern with the fact that there is less self-reliance today than there has been, or there was apparently in Tocqueville's time. I'm wondering how you would distinguish between equality of opportunity and equality of condition, and what responsibility you think government has for both equality of condition and equality of opportunity.
Well, equality of opportunity is defined as giving people in this country equal opportunities in our nation, while equality of condition is more of a socialist communist where everybody is the same. And as the government starts to gain more powers and pass more bills such as health care, we tend to go towards more equality of condition because people are getting about the same stuff, not just the same opportunities.
So just to follow up then, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? And what would Tocqueville think about that?
I personally believe that it's a bad thing. I think that people come to America to be given the chance to step up from their social class and not be constricted to what the government gives them. And Tocqueville would not appreciate this because he came here and he saw people getting together and people doing things for themselves. And I think he'd be really disappointed that we've let the government step up over its bounds as much as we have.
I think Thomas Jefferson would also be disappointed with this because he once said a government big enough to give you everything you need is a government strong enough to take everything that you have.